welcome to the Yard Sign. It's the most important and relevant podcast in politics. I'm your host, Johnny Torres. We've got a brand new audience that we're going to tell you a little bit more about later in the show, but just want to give a quick shout out to BizPack Review presenting today's show. Man, lots to talk about. Of course, a lot of uncertainty happening out there, so let's go ahead and get right into today's topics, and then we'll introduce today's cast. Let's bring up the list of topics. Coronavirus, of course, as expected. We're going to drill down into, kind of the way that everybody's kind of looking at this, every which way that you can. How serious is it? And how much more of this are we going to have to put up with? Of course, Trump's response to the coronavirus, including the stock bailouts and the student loan bailouts that were enacted by executive order. And China blaming the U.S. about the coronavirus. We'll pick that apart and the political ramifications of that, along with an update on the Democratic debate, which took place last night. And if you didn't see it, don't worry. I'm sure nobody else did either. We'll talk about who won that whole fiasco. And, of course, let's bring it home to Florida. Andrew Gillum, big news, and not for any good reason. So we'll go ahead and start picking those topics apart after I go over to the big table. We got a good-looking cast today. I'm excited. My goodness. Thank God I'm not sitting next to you guys, because you guys would look way too good tonight. Let me go ahead and turn up everybody's mics here from left to right. We've got the face of the show, but not the substance. That's Jake Hoffman. Hello.
As always, I appreciate the kind words.
Oh, I got to get your thing on the left side. There we go.
Thank you so much.
All right, and sitting next to him is his beautiful fiance, and joining us once again, Michelle Sassouni.
Hi, everyone, and shout out to BizPack out there.
Awesome. And then, of course, our buddy, VerKuilen. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, hi, everybody. It's good to know all of you while we're still existing. So enjoy this episode. It might be the last one until humanity
real quick, for those of you joining us and watching this for the first time, again, we're a group of young conservatives, young Republicans who like to pick apart the week's news, the week's politics, give our perspectives, and shockingly enough, we don't always agree on everything. And so we appreciate you watching this from wherever, whenever you may be doing so. But let's go ahead and get into the first topic, which is the coronavirus. Any of you guys got the coronavirus?
I actually am a little sick, I think, from, but that's all from Key West last weekend. I think it's pretty safe
from a bachelor
down
party in Key West. Do you want to let us know how you got sick?
No, that's okay. We're gonna keep moving. So, but as far as coronavirus goes, I mean, as you guys know, it is absolutely affecting every part of life right now. I mean, there's nowhere you can't do anything. We're starting to get into, curfews and shutting down of bars and restaurants. And I mean, we're going to do our best to kind of dissect it from like a young conservative perspective. But, there is so much to unpack here over the past like week or two since we've basically, started doing social distancing and quarantining.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy how just life has completely been affected. And I mean, I guess need to announce that our wedding is officially that was supposed to occur on May 12th in Ireland is officially postponed for a year. So
yeah.
I waited 10 years to, we waited 10 years to get married. So what's another year? It's okay.
Yeah, but
it is, in reality, I mean, we're joking about it, but it's like if, the venue that we were getting married in, they have to completely shut down. It's, that's going to significantly hurt, not only their business, but so many people's lives who have trips and events planned.
That's how you know you got to keep her. I mean, when she's willing to wait a whole nother year to make this happen, I mean, I think you've got the right one.
Well, and the fact that she's so composed about it too.
Oh my gosh!
On screen. But
I've not been. I'm all right.
But what I will say though is that we bring that up because again, the reason why we're not able to do that, we're not able to go do international flights right now. We have no idea what's going to happen with the international flights coming back on the way back to America. We don't know what's going to happen. Even domestic flights could be canceled. There's talks about that over the next couple weeks. So between all of those travel plans, I mean, I know I've had two conferences. The National Young Republicans Conference was canceled in Washington, D.C. this upcoming weekend. I was really looking forward to that. Those plans are canceled. So, for me, from, young professional standpoint, I mean, every single event that I've planned on going to over the next 6 months is totally up in the air. I have no idea what's going on. My entire calendar is just like a giant question mark at this point. So, and I think that, that's not even that bad compared to people who are actually sick, actually dealing with this problem. But, I'm giving you my perspective
Very
because
first world problem.
Yeah.
because it is first world problems because, again, like we're under 30 and, it doesn't affect us as much. But, there's still a lot of effect that's, taking place based off of the fact that, again, our entire lives are kind of like shutting down around us and we're being, quarantined. How is it affecting you at all, Chris?
My life has been minimally affected. So most of the time is spent in my garage doing woodworking, or I'll spend some time in my office doing some watchmaking stuff. So as a introverted extrovert, like when I'm at home, I'm an introvert. So my life is zero change. As far as like the supplies and stuff, I'm an avid hunter, so I usually have like 80 pounds of meat in my freezer at any point in time. So
see, that's the thing is that, if you've prepped with 80 pounds of meat in your freezer, then you're really like okay with the rest of this happening. But, for the rest of us, we're trying to fight for toilet paper in Target and Walmart, which is totally empty right now. I mean, stores are going crazy and people are going crazy, and they're, at first, I sat on this podcast for the last like 3 or 4 weeks and basically said it's not that big of a deal. I don't think people need to start freaking out about it and going into their bunkers.
Are you going to say that you were wrong?
Never. But
no, they shouldn't have started freaking about it.
what
They went against his advice.
But what I will,
Jake.
what I will say though about it is that right now what we're seeing is everybody that was prepping is starting to feel, validated because of the actions that our government has taken, which is what I think we can talk about today, is all of the different actions that have been, Trump just got on like an hour ago before we got on and did another press conference. Again, we've shut down, major airlines coming into America. We're shutting down schools in our county, in Florida. A lot of other states are shut down. Bars and restaurants are shutting down. I mean, it's affecting everybody right now. So
it's like, I don't know if anyone remembers exactly what happened during Hurricane Katrina in like New Orleans. I mean, granted, that was a different situation where there was like looting and, stuff like that. But the fact that the government and the National Guard had to come in and, secure the area and, try to work to keep everybody safe. And that was in one city in New Orleans, and I think a little bit wider throughout the state. Now we're seeing very similar things occur throughout the entire world. This isn't just an America problem. It's not just a China problem. It's Italy, Europe. I mean, the whole world is being affected by this virus. Yeah. And I think that as much as we are frustrated that our, schools are closing, that our plans are getting canceled and all of that, I do think it's important to remember that, with us, taking the actions of not doing as much and self-quarantining and things like that, it's an act of solidarity for the entire world. And we're saying to everyone that we do care about, our elderly who are most at risk, or people with, autoimmune disorders or underlying illnesses. And we're standing in solidarity with them and saying, and especially the hospital workers, we're saying to them, we're going to do our best to help you out.
Yeah.
And to try to keep everybody safe.
Yeah. And so we were supposed to have somebody from Moffitt on today to come and talk about, what from somebody who actually studied viruses and worked around viruses, worked in that arena, like at the highest levels. Unfortunately, they weren't able to make it.
If he's watching, we're upset with you.
Yeah,
just a little.
Just a little. But I did get some bullet points from again, people who are actually working at, again, the highest levels at the CDC and the WHO and those type of organizations. And again, we're just some political pundits, and I use that term loosely, on actually deciding what's going on from a health standpoint. People who are actually in this field are very concerned, and if they weren't very concerned, they wouldn't be advising our president and our world leaders and our local leaders to shut everything down. So based on the bullet points that I've got from that community is that again, everybody, you can't see the symptoms over the next, like maybe 2 weeks, possibly. You're carrying it around. So even if you're younger and you're not going to be affected by it, you could still be spreading it to older people.
Well, and the biggest part about this, the reason that there has been such a huge response to this in the way that it has been, is because of the virality of it. The fact that it's airborne, the fact that it can live for days on certain surfaces. I mean, this thing just doesn't go away in a matter of minutes or hours like many viruses do.
Yeah.
And that's why they're telling you, wipe everything down, wash your hands, and it doesn't mean that you have to be a shut-in. It just means, take some precaution and, just, be mindful of where you spend your time, but even, I think it's ridiculous that you've got these liberal states, California, New York, who are shutting down small businesses, restaurants, bars, and telling people not to go to these small businesses. They're going to destroy their economy. And these small businesses, I went to a restaurant yesterday that couldn't even hold 12 people. I mean, again, it's just common sense. Like, if you want to go grab a bite to eat, maybe it's a good opportunity to check out that little restaurant that you've been avoiding for the past 10 years. And instead of going to Chili's, maybe check out the mom and pop place that's, within walking distance of your house.
Absolutely. Now, and personally, I do have some health conditions, luckily not autoimmune, but still I've been to the hospital plenty of times. So I worry about myself, and I'm one of the more at-risk people. However, I'm not completely stopping to live my life. I'm just taking precautions, washing my hands, making sure, I keep hand sanitizer in my bag, just being cautious and, keeping an eye out. And, for if I'm starting to feel like if I feel a fever or something, come on. But it's just we don't, like Johnny said, we don't need to just shut down these small businesses. People can choose whether or not they feel like they should stay at home or whether they can take the precautions of washing their hands and, really just not, trying not to touch too many surfaces and then touch their face.
Well, and the beautiful thing is that nowadays we have alternate options. You have all these delivery services. So again, there are other ways for you to support these businesses. And it's great that you've stocked up on, 40 pounds of chicken, for the next 3 weeks, but at the same time, these businesses are going to need a lot of help, and a clever one's a friend of mine. She's a baker, right? She does these kind of high end wedding cakes and desserts and that sort of thing. A great idea that she put out is buy gift cards. So maybe if you don't want to, maybe if you can't support that business right now, maybe do it during this time when they're struggling, just to help them keep the doors open.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be a lot more than that. And, as people that maybe have not watched this show before, I think that we stand very much on the side of small government. The less amount of government intervention, the better. But in these situations where the government is coming in and putting sanctions and, not sanctions necessarily, but rules in place where you can't go out or you can't be operating and stuff like that, then if you're going to step in and do that, then you're going to have to figure out what to do with, again, bartenders and servers and people who maybe live paycheck to paycheck, and now all of a sudden their entire business is shut down and they're not getting that paycheck the next couple of weeks or maybe even the next couple of months. So that is something that is going to be, I know Mitt Romney floated $1,000 check to everybody in the country just today. So I don't know if that's the solution, but but that's the reality of what we're talking about.
Sounds like Andrew Yang is advising him.
Exactly. It's out of his playbook.
Yeah,
100%.
It is out of his playbook, but that's the kind of thing we're looking at. And now we've got to jump into the fact that the stock market has been reacting to this right over the past couple of months. I think that everybody's starting to see that. I think we dropped another 3,000 points today. So it's affecting everybody, that's for sure.
Okay, so let's go ahead and start to turn this conversation into the next topic, which is Trump's response, okay? Now, where I see a lot of issues, especially for those on our side of the aisle, is the fact that some are making this out to be political. And I think that's a huge and grave mistake. There's a lot of horrible conspiracy theories out there that are saying that this is somehow some global conspiracy to prevent Donald Trump from being reelected. And the audacity and the lunacy of that conspiracy is exactly what oftentimes is wrong with some of the people in our party. To think that on this level of scale, the billions, if not maybe in trillions of dollars globally that we're going to see in money lost because of this virus, and somebody to think that they would do all that over the economy. I mean, what did you? Are you guys finding that there's any grounds? I mean, or
I am one to entertain all conspiracy theories. By the way, I absolutely will. What I won't say is there's obviously no credence to that that this is some big hoax or something like that, right? Which is something I've seen from some people on the right as well. But what I will give credence to is that this was a manufactured disease that came out of China. One of the things that's been a really frustrating thing from a political standpoint, talk about politicizing it, we have government leaders in China that are coming out and saying that it was the American army's fault, and that's the propaganda that they're presenting to their community, right? They're saying, oh, it's America's fault, the army came in and they passed us along.
It's like a hot potato.
Yeah.
Well, and we're gonna that's a topic that we're gonna get into tonight. I mean, but that's
yeah, which feels a bit like deflection,
well, it's
projection.
but I will give credence to the conspiracy theory that again, this is a manufactured disease, that maybe they were trying to do it to get people in Hong Kong off of the streets. I mean, I'm not gonna say that's what it is, but what I will say is that I'm open to entertaining those. I don't think it's like some big global conspiracy to stop Trump. I think that again, you've seen the politicization of that. On the left, people have been saying that his response hasn't been strong enough, or that he cut the CDC's this and that, so that's why we have this problem in the first place, and that's completely unfounded. And it's really not fair to him or anybody on our side. I mean, again, they're doing absolutely everything they can do, and again, they're shutting down flights into the country. I mean, when you start getting to that point, I don't know how much of a stronger response you could possibly have from a leader.
I don't think that the entire thing is a hoax or a conspiracy, but I do think that people are utilizing it to their political advantage,
sure,
which is awful. I mean, so from what I've seen so far, there's been a handful of incidences. I mean, for example, the relief effort, the first relief effort, Trump asked for $4 billion for the relief effort. The Democrats amended it to be an $8 billion package as opposed to $4 billion, with no, I think the word repudiation. Once the virus is gone and the money hasn't been spent, it doesn't go back to the coffer of the Fed. It stays and it gets spent on pet projects, which is garbage. So to use bills that are attached to an emergency and an epidemic like this as a way to get your political bidding done is pretty disgusting. I'm not particularly fond of that. Another thing that I saw was the criticism of him over some things that he said regarding, I think he said, we'll have a vaccine in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something like that. And they're like, oh, he's so dumb. There's no way you're not a virologist. And then that was on the 28th of February.
Yeah.
March 12th, Anthony Fauci, the director of the CDC, or one of the infectious disease groups we have, was like, yeah, we're getting one in stage 1.
Yeah, and one of the things we haven't talked about so far is the fact that we had tests available for the virus that they were ready to have at everyone's disposal, but because of the bureaucracy that occurs in the FTC and the different types of loops that they had to jump through. I mean, you can listen to the New York Times has a podcast on it. They do a great job covering the fact that they had to hold back the innovation of the test, and they had to basically go on and try and do it anyway without the approval of the government, because again, that's what ends up happening when you have too many layers.
There's a doctor named Dr. Helen Shu. She worked out of Seattle, and she had a study going on influenza and to figure out transmissibility and different strains, etc., community spread. And she contacted the Food and Drug Administration.
Yeah.
She's like, hey, I have this study going. It can be converted to what needs to be done immediately. Can we do it? And because of the bureaucracy bounced between the FDA and the CDC, she basically lost all of her time, and all the patients that she could have prevented from spread were that spread was on the hands of red tape by the FDA.
And what this brings me to my biggest point, and I wanted to address this, is that we have no idea what the numbers are for this entire pandemic, right? What we have is we have a set of numbers. The latest that I've seen, this is from Johns Hopkins before the show, 180,000 people are infected that they can confirm cases around the world, and 7,000 are dead, which gives it a 3 to 4% mortality rate, which is pretty bad.
Which is astounding.
Which is an
astounding mortality
rate. But
rate.
This is my point, is that when we don't have the tests that have been out there, right? We haven't been testing people. You could have had millions of people pass this through their system and not be tested for it. But they actually carry it, right? So it could have been 7,000 deaths and 1 million people, but none of them were tested.
Okay, that's not likely though. That's actually not. No, that's not likely.
Plausible.
Because it's plausible.
I think it's very likely, actually,
It's
but I'll let you go.
plausible, but not probable.
Well, what I'm
So no, and the reason why is because when you get the disease, you don't exhibit symptoms at first, but you do get a fever and a dry cough.
Yeah.
So they're not testing, but they're typically using those tests for people who are coming in with fever.
So here's my point. They're not using the test. Like, I have people that think
runny
that
nose, they're not using.
There are people that think that they have coronavirus. Right? I've heard this over and over again from people that I know, and they are going in saying, "I'm sick. I think I have coronavirus. Can you test me for it?" And they're going, "No."
But were they running a fever?
But it doesn't matter. The point is that they're not testing people. And if you're not testing people, and they weren't testing people in China, and they weren't testing people around the rest of the world, and so again, it could be in the millions of more cases that we don't know about. And then that, again, I don't see how we're working with accurate data. Is my overall point. And so while there's 7,000 deaths, and it's unfortunate, and then again, the number is showing 3 to 4% mortality rate's a really big deal. If you don't have accurate data that it could be in the millions, then I don't see how. Again, I think it's a little bit of an overreaction to what we're seeing right now about shutting things down.
I don't think so.
People at the CDC and at the WHO and at people that we were going to have on this show that know a lot more about me about viruses and biology, they think that I'm totally wrong in that that they actually haven't taken enough steps. That's actually the opinion of most people, is that we should be social quarantining even more.
So what China did is they essentially put it so that you had to take a test to see if you had a fever or not before you could enter any sort of building. And that's something that is more difficult. The steps that China took are difficult for the United States to take because we are a democracy. Same with Italy. It was much more difficult.
Not only that, China has the infrastructure to handle some of this because of the size of their government. They have the police power, they have the military power, to, again, mobilize those people in a different way. And again, they're a much smaller country. Yes, they have a huge population, but they are a much smaller country than we are, and they don't have the levels of bureaucracy that we do. One of the other things that somebody's mentioning, a few people are talking about in the comments section on Conservative News today, is the fact of the bill that they're trying to pass, where small businesses are going to have to pay 2/3 of their employees' salaries during this time.
And that's nuts.
That's wild.
It's nuts. I mean, like, as a small business owner myself, I mean, like, I run a digital media company, so we're doing just fine. I mean, like, and the people in the supplement industry, people that are selling supplements right now, I'm telling you, there are certain industries that cannot keep enough inventory on the shelves. But for people who work, again, in physical industries where you need to go into a bar, you own a restaurant or something, and you need to pay your employees leave time when you're not allowed to operate your business, I mean, like, that's not even something to comprehend as a business owner.
No,
you're going to put people into bankruptcy.
These small businesses have 2, maybe 3 weeks tops that they're going to be able to do that. And the problem is that the way the bill that Congress passed, the House specifically, is written, it's too flexible because it doesn't clearly define what an employee is. It also gives people way too much legroom to where for just about any reason, they could basically stay home. They could cough and say, hey, not feeling well, I got symptoms, I'm going to stay home. Or, of course, the kids are going to be home, which is a very real issue. That's a very real problem. And so they're going to have to stay home for that. But a small business cannot sustain the salaries of people who are not producing revenue.
Yeah, I actually read the entire Healthy Families Act. It was, I think, like 12 pages. I did that last night before the show. So you're welcome. So my initial take on it was it's full of pork, but I actually read through it. There's no pork in it. The main issue conservatives have with it is that it's not a federal-backed bill. It's not coming out of the Treasury. It's coming out of the small businesses' pocketbooks. And if you're really concerned about employees having means by which to support themselves, yes, they'll be good for while they're sick, but they're not going to have a job to go back to after their business goes belly up.
Support. I think what the government, instead of forcing businesses to pay 2/3 of their employees' salary, the government should be either extending sick leave, paying the businesses so they can pay the employees their sick
for
leave.
this.
Pay it out of the unemployment insurance.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like
right.
The money. If you want the money to go to the employees, the government either can directly give it to them or they can give it to the businesses. But you can't ask businesses to pay money that they likely don't have and money that they're losing right now because you are forcing them to close down.
Imagine you own the cruise lines right now. But you have to pay everybody that works on your cruise line. No, they're laying people off. I mean, that's what's happening right now. I mean, like when the government comes in and starts to move chess pieces around like this, then it causes a domino effect. It really does. And you're going to end up with a bunch of people out. I mean, honestly, like, I was not worried about this as a global problem like a month ago. I really wasn't. But the reaction that we've had from social media, from the media, and then from our government, it makes me go, we're going to hit a hard recession. It's going to be really bad.
And I'll say I was worried about this because I remember my father works in the financial industry, and I remember 2008 very well. And it was just even though this isn't the same situation when it comes to the stock market, because that was nearly a breakdown of the entire banking industry as we know it, but it's still all of the hallmarks of this isn't that bad. It's not that bad. It's not going to be that bad. It's going to be over soon. We're going to rebound in a couple weeks. And then it just keeps going
But this
down
has felt like the
down.
opposite. This has felt like this is worse. This is worse. This is terrible. And it keeps going down because I don't know if it's because of that or just as, again, it's people being correct on it. Because right now you don't have people saying, nobody's tempering expectations right now. Like, everyone's being very real about it and being like, I think it's going to be a really hard time.
Yeah. Well, and that's, a lot of the plummeting in the stock market is caused by investors recognizing, like, seeing what happened in China, seeing what happened in Italy, and their markets get hit. So they go, well, we need to sell because the cruise lines aren't going to be functioning massive. And the big issue right now with the economy is that, typically you'll see it's the demand that falls for a certain product or an industry. But right now we're having a supply side breakdown. So when China, who supplies most of our products, most of, they supply a vast majority of products.
No, but it's
not a majority, but a lot of them. And it's like, so when the iPhones aren't able to make it to the store, people can't go buy that.
Yeah, and again, supply is a problem. Again, I think it's going to hurt China long term more than it's going to hurt America long term, because I think that people are going to find other supply chains.
But this is the thing. You guys are talking about the stuff that needs to be manufactured, right? We're talking about things that, do we really need? Probably not. Things that we can probably live without, right? But as we're hearing again in the comments section, and thanks to everybody who's in the comments section, BizPack Review, Conservative News Today, and of course our own comment section here at the Yard Sign, is people are panicking at these stores. There were lines, around the building of Costco. Meanwhile, there's no supply issue. It's not like a hurricane where all of a sudden trucks and the distribution channels are going to be shut down. There's still truckers out there delivering stuff every single day. There's no reason why you need to go and hoard a year's worth of toilet paper. No, I don't think. They're not going to shut down the supply chain. Because again, that all travels by train. It travels by truck. It's not, it's not the same as, putting 100 people or 200 people on an airplane or putting 50 to 100 people in a restaurant. So the food's going to be fine. The toilet paper is going to be fine. I don't think we're going to have those kind of supply problems that people think we're going to have.
I don't know. I think that, again, I've been predicting that this hasn't been that big of a deal, but the more and more panic that seems to arise off of every single day you watch the news, every time a press conference starts, it's like another thing shuts down. And I wouldn't be surprised if they are shutting down grocery stores or something in a few days, because they don't want people walking in and there's more than 15 people in the room. I think that's what people are panicking about, and that's why people are worried they're not going to be able to get the supplies they need.
It's been entirely self-compounding too.
Sure.
So it's been like one thing happens and it spurs, like you were saying, it really is, the fear is raising in an exponential manner. And I think if we all took a breath and kind of took stock of what we have, what we don't have. Imagine a hurricane. We wouldn't have power. We wouldn't have water. We wouldn't have roads to drive on. We have all that right now in this emergency. We have the means by which to control this and stay alive. Like,
absolutely,
no one's going to die because of
supply
lines, because of lack of food, lack of water, lack of power.
Yeah.
Well, the issue with this, here's the thing though, when you guys talk about no one's going to die because of the supply lines, that's not correct, because, well, in a certain respect, because, when you talk about like ventilators being unable to get to hospitals, and they're running short on ventilators, and, I think it was the United Kingdom,
they're out of ICU seats. That's the big thing.
And same with Italy, but they were making pleas on national television, going, if you make ventilators, we will buy them. Like, please tell us where to get them. We will buy your product if you can get it to us.
Yeah.
So that's what's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. if you want to watch the news and be panicked every single day, every single hour, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. I do think right now it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Absolutely.
But I think, for our purposes, again, none of us are, have the CDC title behind our name, so we'll sit here from our chairs and try and collect our toilet paper and then move on to the next topic.
Yeah. Well, what I'll say is that's with this with this pandemic is that in the United States, with all the precautions that we're taking, it's unfortunate that I just feel like if a mass amount of people don't die, people are all going to look and go, oh, well, it wasn't that bad. Why did we even stop it?
For no matter who.
Yeah,
why did we even stop at everything? But meanwhile, it's like, well, if not that many people die, maybe we save them. Like maybe what we're doing helped. But I don't think Americans have that mentality. I don't think the majority of Americans do.
I think they do. I think that maybe the majority of Americans in your household don't. And
I'm actually kind of glad.
That's the problem.
As a final thought on this, Britain's actually only isolating people that are 60 years of age and older and telling everyone else to live life as normal and not destroy their economy. So I think that'll be a very valuable control as far as to see if we did the right thing or not here. I mean, it won't be fruitful to judge afterwards but it'll give us an insight for the future, how to behave and how to treat these kind of things.
If I was in charge, that would be what I would suggest to do. I mean, again, this is a disease that doesn't actually they haven't even had cases in kids, like no deaths in children, but we've shut down all the schools. I mean, obviously there's a lot of workers and stuff like that, but again, to completely collapse the economy over something that affects I don't want to be like a small portion of the world, but again,
benefit.
I would be looking at more towards UK.
What are we willing to sacrifice as far as our economy goes in order to prevent this thing from doing minute amounts of damage?
And let's talk about the student loan situation that goes into this.
I wanted to say one last thing on the coronavirus is just for everyone to just remember that it is to look out for a fever and to look out for a dry cough. Those are the main symptoms to look for. That's all.
I don't think we should be giving out any kind of medical advice on this program.
Well, that's what I heard from the CDC. So I think that's important.
Visit cdc.gov for any symptoms regarding COVID-19 or coronavirus. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. This is called The Yard Sign. For those of you catching us for the first time, big thanks to BizPack Review and Conservative News Today for carrying our program. We are a group of young conservatives and Republicans broadcasting live from Tampa Bay, Florida. We appreciate you watching, and thanks for the lively comments section. No, Cody, it is not time to start eating the babies yet, but I'm sure we'll get there at some point. We had a lot of fun in the show. We talk about news and politics, very serious topics, but we like to keep it lighthearted and we like to, keep it interesting. And so thank you to everybody again for sending us comments. Please feel free to reach out to us on any of our social media platforms. It's a yard sign on just about every platform you can think of. We want to know how you enjoyed the show. Maybe you didn't like the show. This is a test run for us, especially with BizPack Review and Conservative News Today on board. Let's go ahead back to the list of topics just to get you guys caught up. We were just talking about coronavirus, the president's response. Now we're going to get into student loans. The president signing an executive order to halt all interest rates on student loans. Funny enough, the Democrats were making a big issue out of student loans during their primary, and this may have taken the wind out of that sail. I think this was, I don't know if it was necessary, but it was a really huge move that I don't think got anywhere near the amount of attention that it should have, shockingly. How about you guys? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably do an entire hour on the problems with student loans. What I will say is that during this time, again, I think that, interest rates on student loans, I mean, if you look at when I was in school, they're around 6%, maybe even 6.5, 7%. So, I'm surprised to see anybody really having a huge problem with this. But, for the people who are paying back their student loans, most of the people in our age bracket, that, a relief of maybe like $50 to $100 to a couple $100 a month based on just the interest being cut in half or relieved for a little while. I mean, I think it's a good move. And again, I think it could be something that is, we're talking about Democratic primary that is talking about eliminating all of the student loans that are on the books, right? So in comparison to what's being done right now, I mean, again, there's a big difference between relieving people who are trying to do their best to pay back their student loans and a big difference between, eliminating all of student loans.
Absolutely. And I think that this is don't let, as a lot of Democrat strategists have said, don't ever let a good crisis go to waste. And this is a good crisis for them. So in order to using this to backdoor something like student loan forgiveness for everybody, blanket across the board, we can't let it happen. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
It's gross to attempt to bring these kind of things into politics. Like, relief is one thing, forgiveness is another. Like, relief, people make sure they don't starve, make sure they have a way to survive. Other than that, you're just checking off your political wish list on the back of a virus.
Yeah, there's just a lot of different repayment options, and there are even repayment options that exist where they cut your loan interest in half. That already exists. So the fact that they're applying it now more broadly, again, it is something that has been not as covered as much, but I think it's going to be a huge relief to people in our age range.
I mean, I would hope so, but I do feel like people are still they want their loans forgiven. Bernie promised that, and you have, especially the Bernie bros out there that are not going to back down on, we want our student loans, we want them completely forgiven, we want them paid off. I don't want to pay it. And it's just, there are so many different options for how, like you said, that how we can pay it back. And I agree with Chris that it's not the right move for us to just forgive everyone's student loans. Yeah,
but again, in this time of crisis, like if we're going to help out, Wall Street, doing, different financial maneuvers, like this is a financial maneuver that we can do to alleviate people that actually need it. I mean, again, that's what everybody always complains about on the left and even on the right, is that, we don't see the aid that happens at the lower income brackets in the middle class, and
the 1% get the aid, but the but the
and
lower
this is
class
directly in the pockets of people that are probably very middle class, again, just got out of college. They're trying to pay them back. These aren't people that are defaulted. This is people that are doing their best to try and work. But again, let's say you just left college 6 months ago. I mean, I know so many people that got out around the 2008 recession crisis, and they weren't getting jobs right afterwards, right? So they got into the worst economy in definitely in our lifetimes, in their lifetimes.
That was me.
And that was exactly you. So you could talk about it. And so it's very hard to get a job. So again, if you have student loans that start accumulating 6 months after you get out of school, but then you walk into an economy where no one's hiring you. I mean, again, these are the people that need relief. Not
really, a holiday would be the best way to go about it.
But that's the thing about this is that I love the fact that they're not saying you don't pay your student loans. They're saying, hey, look, we realize things are going to get tough, right? Money's going to get tight, and trust me, everybody is starting to suffer financially from this one way or another. Let's do what we can to help you, kind of weather this storm. And I think by cutting off the interest rates, I think is a huge deal. Well, it's thousands of dollars in savings for the people who are paying for them, if you paid your student loans years ago and you didn't get that interest rate cut, I mean, those are the breaks, but it's also, like when you buy a house and you get a high interest rate, hopefully you can refinance at some point. But if you already paid off the house, I mean, you paid off the house, you just got to move on.
Yeah. So I think that's probably good on that. I think we've said our piece, and we can probably go on to the next topic.
Yeah. So again, it's touching so much that we also were talking about the stock bailouts. Now we kind of went in the wrong order here. That's my bad. But the impact that this has had on the economy and of course the stock market has been tremendous. Personally, I'm excited by seeing some of the stock prices that are out there right now. I mean, when you're looking at Disney stock at about $100 a share, you're looking at Facebook that's under $200. It's hovering around $150. It's exciting if you've got the expendable money to jump in and throw it in right now. But is this something that I think are we going to easily recover from? I think so. You guys?
I think it's going to be a lot like 2008. Not exactly the same, but in the sense that out of the 2008 recession and you start getting into 2009 and 2010. There are some people that are going to come out extremely wealthy out of this situation. Right? There's going to be people that
this is how rich get rich.
This is when it happens. Like as much as people want to look at it and be like, woe is me, like my business is crumbling, I'm going bankrupt, but whatever it is, like there's going to be so many people who look at this as an opportunity. They're going to start new businesses. They're going to buy up cheap businesses. They're going to buy up cheap stocks and do that, and they're going to expand their wealth exponentially out of something like this. And again, you're going to see all kinds of stories like that.
And the key difference between who is going to be able to expand their wealth and who is going to have a really tough time in this economy is it's who had savings. And 60% of Americans don't have any savings, zero savings. And that is, and unfortunately they're going to suffer. But for the Americans who did save their money, who did work on putting it away, and I understand that not everybody is able to do that. There are some people that have to live paycheck to paycheck. But even if you were able to put a little bit of money away, it can add up. And those people now are looking at this as a huge opportunity.
It's dinner.
Yeah, it's to invest. I mean, the crew. I'm not going to give stock advice, but there are certain industries that are crumbling, but they will rebound. I don't believe this is going to be.
Yeah, it's not going to be a Great Depression. I mean, we're not going to have like a decade of depression. I think we're going to have. Again, it's going to be a down, I would say, rest of the year, at least, and then maybe you start pick up the year after that. But again, like we've been going up. Like at an unprecedented pace from a stock market perspective for the last 13, 15 years, something like that. I mean, it was bound to come down at some point, right? But I mean, the fact what's a little bit crazy to me is the way that it all came about, with just the virus being the thing that sparked it.
Not
but
that.
People have been predicting that there is this massive fall and a new recession.
That there was going to be a correction.
Yeah, there's got to be. There has to be correction.
But it wasn't for the reasons people thought. And first of all, Michelle, when you're at this table, you can put on whatever hat you want, whatever badge certification you want to wear. You're allowed to do it. It's part of the sitting at this table.
Well, earlier I was the infectious disease expert. Now I'll give you stock advice.
You can do all that.
Yeah,
but,
I'm a political scientist, a journalist. I mean, all the things that I like to say that.
Regarding the American economy, I think that the uptick we're going to see is going to be more of a straight up. Like it's kind of fallen down precipitously. It's going to go up in the same way to a certain degree. So the reason I think that is because imagine the American economy is like a hot rod. You went from a Honda Civic to, we had a Ferrari economy, a couple months ago, so the machine is there. The machine ran out of gas. The machine had mechanical issues. We have the infrastructure in our economy to be able to rebound from this very, very quickly. The fault that I see is that people, the way things are being run currently, up until a few months ago, they were very, very healthy. We had the resources in the right hands. The right people were running things the correct way. But because of the financial issues that are going to happen, the people who are doing that responsibly are going to not have control of business anymore. They're going to lose.
Yeah, what I don't want to see is what I already am seeing on the left, which is calling for an entire revolution and new system that like everything we have is broken. Look at how bad things are now, which is kind of what you're starting to see from your Bernie bros and the people that are on that side. They're sitting there and saying like, oh, if we had universal health care, things would be better right now.
No,
if things were, again, federal government was bigger and we were able to handle, I mean, all of those different things that they've been trying to like pass for years, they're using this as an excuse to say like, look how broken the system was. But like you're saying, running out of gas in a Ferrari isn't the same as like needing a new car, right?
Exactly.
It's like you just need to fix it.
The point I was getting at is if I ran your business after you went out of business and I bought your business, I wouldn't be able to run it the same way you can. I don't have that knowledge, that human capital. If you try to do
I can't
my
make
job,
watches, so.
Yeah, exactly. So I see some damage to our economy because of that, but otherwise I think we should have a very, very healthy economy once the air clears.
This is... Again, it's the Ferrari's not even broken. It's just people panicked that that there were issues. People were just and it's because of a virus came over to the Ferrari. Really, that's the only way to say it.
Okay, but to bring it back to the topic, was it the right thing to do to inject money into this into the economy or the stock market?
I hate that.
So this is a kind of a touchy subject because again, as libertarians, like we're kind of like the government shouldn't be coming in and putting money into something like this. People kind of think that we came in, and the headline has been that the Fed has come in and put $1.5 trillion into the system, which is just not accurate to what actually happened. It doesn't actually cost them any money. What they've done is they've backed certain loans, and which is not the same as giving $1.5 trillion out to corporations. So it's a little bit different. Again, they've been taking a lot of flack for it. I don't think they should have bailed out the stock market the last time around. They probably shouldn't bail them out this time. Again, we shouldn't have inflated numbers. But, again, they're doing what they can to kind of stop the bleeding here and there. And I'm not going to pretend to be, the head of the federal, Treasury to give you an answer on it.
So a quantitative easing bill just passed, adding $80 billion to the U.S. currency volume. Our current volume before that was $1,571 billion. So essentially those dollars are now worth about 5% less.
Yeah.
So your savings account, my savings account is now we cannot purchase less goods with the dollar
Sure.
than we did before, which is why quantitative easing is one of the worst financial policies ever to exist. I hated it when Obama did it, and now I hate that Trump has done it.
And while I don't like that, I do think that, you know, with these businesses with the economy having such problems, and specifically, like, you know, you look at a lot of industries, they're going to have to, you know, lay off so many people because of the economy and because the virus has hit us so bad. And it's hard for me to look at it and say we just shouldn't do anything. We shouldn't bail them out. We have to do something to, you know, to stop the bleeding and to, you know, and to just give some relief. And in 2008, as much as I agree that it caused inflation and I don't like, you know, a lot of the issues that came from it, I do think that we had to do it in 2008. I don't think that we had any other option. And now I think we have to do something as well.
And it's one of those things we talk about, you know, even 10 years later, and we look back and you cannot get a consensus on whether or not it was a good move or it was a bad move, which is kind of crazy.
Most people I know in the financial industry.
Well, of course, in the people in the financial industry.
They all do. Yeah, but well, those are the people that were most involved. They do think that's what we should have done. And I think now I like that it wasn't a straight cash injection, that we were, you know, backing the loans. So I do like that move a bit better than if we had just given a straight cash injection.
I wouldn't put it past them to
go and do it.
To go and do it in maybe a month or two.
No,
so now you have no idea what's going to happen.
And that's one thing, is it's a very politically expedient policy.
Yeah.
Like, if something good happens, great, I did it. If something bad happens, well, sorry, it didn't work as planned. But this really goes to the conservative philosophy of having reserves.
Yeah.
You as a person, a school district as a person, a state government as an organization, have reserves. Don't spend beyond your means. You should always have 10% of your yearly income in reserve for situations like this.
Yeah, and we don't require corporations to do such a thing, and we don't require, you know, not that we should, but, you know, it's like we don't even advise, you know, There's how many Silicon Valley companies are running on a completely negative, you know, business model, basically, right? So there's a lot of issues here. Again, everybody's kind of leveraged in different ways. I think that we could sit back here and go back and forth on what the best move is for it. But it's very nuanced and it's very complicated.
Well, something I really hate though that I've seen is that something I really hate though from the left that I've seen is them going, oh, well, if they're bailing out the stock markets with 1.5 trillion, we should be able to have universal health care. And it's like, this is not a one-to-one comparison. Don't sit there and go, well, if you gave us health care, you know, everything would be better. Like, it's not, this isn't the same thing.
One of them allows goods and services to continue to be made. The other one does not.
Well, and it's like, it's this attitude of we don't want to see bailouts go to Wall Street again. And it's like, but those bailouts are trying to help their employees to not lose their jobs.
And
so if they just went and laid everyone off, you'd be mad too. You know, it is, as much as you don't like the way it looks, you know, to go to the big bank, or not big banks, but the big industries, you still don't want to see employees get laid off.
What I don't want to see more than anything out of this entire global pandemic is that we end up with new entitlement programs, which is what I can see happening, especially if Trump ends up losing the election, is that you go into these situations, and because there's a mass overreaction, we end up with this massive new entitlement program, and that's what I don't want to see at all.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
All right. Again, thank you everybody for watching The Yard Sign. It's the most important and relevant podcast in politics. For those of you joining for the first time, we appreciate the support from BizPack Review and Conservative News Today. If you'd like an audio version of the show, you can find us on all the major podcast platforms, Apple, Google, and Spotify. Please make sure to subscribe to the show. Give us a nice rating, if you will. And for those of you watching for the first time, let us know what you think of the show. You know, this is obviously kind of a pilot run for us. Not only, you know, is this a fairly new show, we're less than a year old, but this is our first time working with BizPack Review and Conservative News Today, and this has been an amazing partnership that we're really excited about, and we'd love to continue to see this grow. Again, lots to talk about today. We're going to go ahead and shift the coronavirus conversation to blame. Which is now, of course, we heard early on that the virus originated in Wuhan, China, and now in an offensive, we see China now trying to build a narrative that this virus somehow was created and developed here in the United States. Is this a continued fracturing of the relationship between China and the U.S., or are they just trying to just displace blame here?
Yeah, I mean, they have to spin it to their, they have a communist regime over there. They have to spin it so that it's not their fault, right? I mean, like, it's not like that complicated. They're kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall right now, right? They're like, oh, it was the U.S. Army. They brought it in. And so, again, we talked about it a little bit earlier on the show, but like they've come out, they've said, it's not our fault. The United States made it. And then we're like sitting around like, what are you talking about? Like, this happened like right in Wuhan.
Yeah.
This is what, like, I'm pretty sure there is like a biochemical.
I'm not aware of a whole lot of U.S. Army installations in Wuhan.
Yeah.
Well, the point is, again, these open air markets are responsible for, multiple different viruses in the past, couple decades. And again, it makes sense, right? Like, you have open air markets with all kinds of different exotic meats that they're not keeping in a sanitary condition, and viruses happen, right? So it's like, instead of that being discussed as like a very logical issue, usually when it comes to these type of things, the most logical and the most simple explanation is the one that you should go with, and that seems like a really logical and simple explanation.
The funny part to me is like, when you like the reasoning they've put out as, so like, this is not our fault, this is someone else's fault. An average fifth grader could probably pick through the ideological faults in their claims in about 15 minutes. And this is the Chinese government trying to prop up these stupid conspiracy theories.
But, again, they don't want to be blamed globally, and they kind of are, because they are at blame. But they don't want to be, blamed globally for not reacting in the right way. Again, they tried to hide it. We talked about it for weeks on this show, about them hiding this virus, about them hiding the numbers and stifling doctors and, stopping them from coming out and speaking about how bad it actually is. So they were trying to keep this under wraps for weeks, and which is the reason why it's expanded so exponentially, because instead of there being work on vaccines and working on being prepared for these types of things, we've all been sitting around being like, oh, I guess not that bad, because the Chinese government's been kind of like suppressing the whole thing.
They really dropped the ball on us.
And it's like, the more that they keep saying it's the United States' fault, the Army brought it, the more it makes you think, I'm pretty sure something happened in Wuhan and it's your fault.
Yeah.
And as a whole, the Chinese government, what they, at the beginning of it, they did not handle it well at all, but they were able to, kind of contain it and eventually, bring it down because they have such a massive.
Well, because they were
government.
able to put shoveling dirt around the city of Wuhan and keep people in it and actually physically quarantine them. I guess it's an effective method.
Yeah,
I think they were actually welding people inside of their houses at some point. It's
terrifying, and it's the whole situation in China it's very scary.
Well, that's what I'll say about this whole situation in America. What scares me is the fact that we have this massive federal government that's coming in and stepping on our throats and basically saying, you need to stop this, stop this, stop this. And while they haven't, basically come in and forced you to sit in your home and welded you shut, but we're not that much farther from that. And that, that's what worries me about this, is that your personal liberties and your personal freedoms can be taken like that over a virus.
Yeah, and I understand that, and it is scary. But what I think about with this is, what would we do would we think about this differently if it was sarin gas? If it was, if that sarin gas, or if anthrax had been released and we knew.
Well, we had anthrax, so we didn't shut down schools.
But if we knew that it was being released like in the air by another government,
Yeah.
if it was an act of war by, like, say it was the Chinese government that was attacking us with sarin gas, would we be so lax in saying,
I'm gonna leave that for the comment section, because I'm not gonna follow you down that
No,
rabbit
I'm
hole
asking.
with the 10 minutes that we have left.
To your point, though, the Chinese government wouldn't be like, you did this to us, well, let's just slide this time. They would be doing something about it. And that's kind of one of those things where a 5-year-old or a 5th grader could pick through the logic and be like, no, this is stupid. You're making dumb claims.
Yeah. So
well, and so far, the experts that have kind of looked into this and have done the research and are out there trying to hit the media with scientific information on all this, so far have said that this was a naturally occurring virus that did originate out of China, but they're trying to dispel the rumors. And again, it's hard to believe right now in the middle of all this, kind of what to believe and what not to believe. But so far, there doesn't seem to be any indication that this was a biological weapon.
No. So I'd rather move on because we spent almost an hour on coronavirus, which I know it's obviously we cannot get away from the topic.
I hate that we have to do it.
But I want so bad to get to the next topic. I want to leave all the time we can to talk about Andrew Gillum.
Well, it's not the next topic. We have the Democratic debate as the next topic.
I don't want to talk about Democratic debate. Biden's gonna win. There's not much
Biden
more
wins.
than that.
The Bernie Bros are mad, and
I mean, there was a debate that nobody watched. I mean, if you want to jump into the topic, there was a debate that nobody watched because, again, the delegates are kind of already decided, right? We've kind of all decided that Biden's gonna win. Bernie's gonna kind of gotten screwed out of his position again and lose the primary. So it looks like Biden's gonna end up being the nominee. Again, it's kind of taken a back seat to what the what's going on around the rest of the country right now. But again, I don't know how much there is really to talk about. I mean, Biden's
okay, so the big question out of the debate from last night, because it looks like, at least from what I was following on Twitter and what I'm seeing on social media, is that Biden pretty much swept the floor with Bernie. It was a horrible, disastrous debate for Bernie. And of course, Bernie Bros all up in arms. They are angry. And they're saying they're going to jump ship like they did last time and defect or not vote for Biden, being that now he's kind of the presumptive nominee, right? And again, is this just lead to the inevitable reelection of the president?
So I was actually pretty proud of Bernie last night. He usually combs his hair with a balloon, and this time it was actually relatively well conformed to his head. Biden, though, came after him pretty hard with the whole anti-socialism thing.
Yeah.
One of the first segments was Biden.
You'd think they would have opened with that like a year ago.
Yeah, right?
I think. Saving the best for last.
Yeah.
But talking about the coronavirus, Biden came out and he said, Italy has single payer. It's not doing them a damn's worth of good right now. And Bernie was like, they don't have a system. They don't have a system in place. It's like, we do have a system. It's run by people who are motivated by profit, so they have to do a good job or else they lose their business.
Yeah.
There goes your communist
theory, it showed. Bernie. Well, I think the clear issue there that we saw on that particular topic was that now Biden's kind of turning the narrative that has been of the Democratic Party for a long time, which is let's give Medicare for all, and for Biden to turn on that and say, you know what, Medicare is broken. It's not going to work. Single payer is not going to work. Shows that they don't even believe in the healthcare messaging that they've been putting out for all these years.
I don't think Biden's camp believes in that. I think that there is a half of the Democratic Party that does very much believe in that.
I think it was great for Biden to come out and to be firm that, he's saying, I don't believe that we should have Medicare for all. I'm moderate, and he really took that moderate stance that I think will resonate. And I said on the podcast, a while ago that I thought the only candidate that had a chance at beating Trump was Biden, because a lot of people look at him and say, we liked Obama. Obama's, America was fine for us. So, we like Joe Biden. And so Biden represents a return to normalcy. And also by saying that he doesn't want to go in, have a complete revolution and break down all these systems. He is essentially, furthering that narrative of I'm going to return the country to normal.
Well, but you're right. But the point you're making, Michelle's the right one, which is that they knew, the Democratic Party realized that if they allowed Bernie to get this nomination, that they were no longer going to be the Democratic Party as we know it, and they would have to adopt a socialist platform. And I think that scared them as much as it scares any of us, because they realize that they've gone off the deep end.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I want to talk about Democrats going off the deep end, though. That's all I want to get to. I don't know why we saved this for last.
Last thing though, I mean,
because it's the juiciest story.
didn't
of the
it
night.
feel good for like Biden to say that? And you're like, I've been saying this for years.
Yeah, it very much. And here's the thing: is why I think Biden has the best chance of beating Trump is because there are Republicans out there that don't like Trump, and I think especially if you're a swing voter and you're looking at this, you're gonna go, man, I'm really sick of Trump's, Twitter dominating the headlines. And Biden's really not all that different. I think who he picks as VP will be very, very important because I remember when John McCain ran.
Maybe he'll
looking
pick
at
Andrew
Sarah
Gillum.
Palin was
Maybe they
maybe
were
Andrew Gillum.
floating Andrew Gillum as the VP. I will say
All
that.
right,
That
let's go into that.
They were floating him, and that's why, Johnny, if you want to intro this so I can just get to it.
All right, here we go. All right, again, thank you so much for watching The Yard Sign, everybody. The most important and relevant podcast in politics. Welcome to our new friends at BizPack Review and Conservative News Today. We love all the comments and certainly the shout-outs. Christy in Washington, Mike in Ohio. Love you guys for watching. Thank you so much. The lively comment section has certainly been fun to watch tonight. Keith and Noel, thanks for the love. You guys have been awesome. Thank you for being so welcoming to this new show on these platforms. And again, we do this every Monday night, 7 o'clock, right here live on Facebook and YouTube. And then you can also get the audio version on any of the major podcast platforms, Apple, Google, and Spotify. Andrew Gillum, the topic of the day, especially here in Florida. Man, despite all of the news that has been coming out about coronavirus and all the, it has basically flooded the news cycle, this story has gotten an immense amount of attraction, of coverage. I mean, even some of the European outlets have been writing about Andrew Gillum getting busted in a hotel room in Miami Beach with drugs, a gay prostitute. What else?
Well, yeah, as Johnny introed, I mean, this has been such a fun week for Republicans to kind of come back, especially in Florida, because we spent like a year during a governor's race sitting there and telling you, like, vote for Ron DeSantis, pay attention, like, you don't want this Gillum guy, he's corrupt, he's got these problems and everything, and then I mean, what did they do? They just like lambasted Republicans for a year going into this about how terrible Ron DeSantis is. Well, look how Ron DeSantis is doing.
Yeah.
By the way, he's done amazing. And look at where Andrew Gillum is right now. Okay, so this is a guy who's had every chance in the world, right? I mean, now he's a CNN commentator, right? And then he's also, again, he wouldn't give any of his money back that he raised from his campaign. So he was going to run a bunch of, he's probably still actually going to fund a bunch of Democratic candidates around the state of Florida where we live. And again, to watch this just go up in absolute flames is just been great to sit back, get the popcorn, and let the let the news headlines roll in, because Candace Owens, by the way, was the one who broke this story because she had the actual
Police report, all the affidavits.
Yeah.
And
she had a well-placed friend.
She had a very well-placed friend, and what came out of that was exactly what Johnny said. If you're not familiar with this story yet, Andrew Gillum was found at the Mondrian in South Beach, a very nice hotel, and he had two men in the room as well. This is late into the wee hours of the morning. They found a couple of bags of meth, and then one of them was a gay escort.
One of them. The reason the police were called is because one of them overdosed.
And Andrew Gillum was so intoxicated that he couldn't respond.
Couldn't talk to the police.
Now, what amazes me is that as intoxicated as he was, they didn't test him for drugs.
No, I mean,
I don't have a crime to do that.
No arrest was made.
You do need to commit a crime to be tested.
But if there's meth,
possession of meth, I thought was a crime.
I do actually think
Seriously?
that when it comes to,
test you unless you're driving.
I think in the law regarding like HIPAA and things like that, and some of the laws we passed in Florida to kind of like coddle drug users. Essentially, if you're called for an overdose, a medic, there is protection in place where you can't be arrested for what's going on because they want to be able to treat that person, keep them from dying, and people wouldn't call for EMS help if they had the fear of being prosecuted. And so I think that law might be in place to protect them. As the great Rick James once said, cocaine is a hell of a drug.
And this guy, I mean, this is a massively scandalous story though. Like, there is a reason why it got picked up in like the Daily Mail, like over in the UK and everything, right? But you know where it didn't get picked up very much was CNN, because it's very embarrassing for them, because they have more egg on their face than they've already had. They have the Democrats have been pushing this guy, again, mentioned as VP forever was going to be nominated, right? That's how high of a profile this guy is in the Democratic Party. They wanted him so bad to be the new Obama. They really did. That's what they've been pushing for years now. And for him to just get caught very literally with his pants down and a ton of meth in a hotel in South Beach, like, we have been laughing. I love to troll. I've been trolling Andrew Gillum on on Instagram for like a year now because he always posts this like ridiculous stuff and he thinks he's a troll. I mean, his career is crashed and burned. I mean, he went to rehab for alcohol, which again is a ridiculous excuse. I mean, you haven't even addressed the fact that there's meth and gay prostitutes in the room.
Brush that
you
aside.
have to talk about that, but no, you're just gonna be like, no, I have a drinking problem. I've been really depressed since I lost.
Was the gay prostitute also the porn actor? Was it the same guy?
Yeah, same one, I think.
I
believe. I mean,
He's
there's
the one
another.
that I
He's
There's
a
another
versatile,
male.
very versatile actor.
If I was Ron DeSantis, I would have came out and said, my grandma said a hurt dog will holler, but I didn't do meth with a gay prostitute. This is why I should be your governor.
At least he's still working during coronavirus. So at least some industries are still alive and well.
Okay, but this is the craziest thing about all of this, because the money that he had left over from the campaign, okay,
That John
honestly,
Morgan wanted back.
could have made the difference in him winning the campaign. Let's get that very clear. We were almost in recount territory, and he sat on the millions of dollars that he could have used in that campaign to win it, didn't, put it into this slush fund, or as Noah Pransky likes to call, a zombie campaign, okay, and then disguised it as a voter outreach effort, which he made himself the face of. And then now for all of that to come crashing down. I mean, again, anybody that saw this knew, I mean, this was a cash grab.
Yeah. And
This was a cash grab.
We have been warning you, guys. If you've paid any attention to young Republicans to Republicans in Florida for the past year, again, Democrats are very quiet right now. I don't see them on Facebook mentioning this. They're not sharing the story and being like, we need to get rid of this guy out of the party. They're saying. They're staying very, very quiet right now and very interested. They're quarantined.
Thoughts and prayers.
They're like, oh no, we're just quarantining ourselves because of the coronavirus. But no, they don't want to come talk about this.
Most of them are pointing to other Republicans that have had, issues in the past and saying, oh, well, look at what he did. Look at what, at his history. But, that's not answering the questions about what Andrew Gillum did and how are you going to treat him in your party? Like, is he going to be able to waltz back into his job after he finishes rehab?
He's still keeping his job at CNN, I guarantee you that.
That's wild to me. That's wild.
Well, this is the horrible thing.
Republicans never got to keep their jobs when stuff like this happens.
When Republicans have something like this happen, we oust the person in the party, right? We do not stand behind people that go and do something like that. Like, nobody seems to, they like to make a ton of news headlines around this, like the guy from Alabama, what's his face, or and then the one that
Roy Moore,
or like one of those guys, or some of the other
Sanford in South Carolina.
Some of these guys that have come out and done some morally reprehensible things, we throw them off the boat immediately, and we're like, because we know as Republicans, like we have to throw them off the boat.
Well, we do have to address the fact that you're saying that, but Trump is still the president. And
that's
the leader of our party.
not what we're talking about at all.
No, I know,
but
while they're in office.
I'm talking about the fact that there are all of these people, when they do something morally reprehensible, we get them out of the party and we kick them out of the party. What's not happening here is Democrats completely. They should be kicking him out of the party, and that's not what we're seeing right now.
They should be condemning him.
Yeah, at the very least, I would like to see some condemnation for his actions.
No, and look, this is a horrible thing for their family, right? And so they're going to suffer the most in all of this. But the truth of the matter is, like you said, he's going to come out, and then they're going to carry him on his shoulders and be like, oh, look, he's okay now. Like, he can come back and join us in the real world because he's done his rehab time. And the truth of the matter is that none of this is new. Okay, and this is not popular. This is not popular to say. And as all of you know, I have what the kids call no chill. And so I have no problem saying that this is something that has been well known since he was in college in Tallahassee going to Florida State. They knew that he had these problems. They knew that he was prone to drug use. They knew that he was that he may not be playing for the same team. Okay, like all these things are have been out there for years, and it's stuff that nobody wants to talk about until now, when it explodes in everybody's face, and they wonder, oh, how did we get here?
Yeah,
and
well, we're enjoying all of this as much as we can, and again, we're gonna revel in this for a little while, but we do need to wrap it up and kind of get to our final comments here.
Let's just make it clear though that we're not on Andrew Gillum's case because it's because he's gay or maybe not gay, but what because he has maybe having sex with men. It's the drug use that's more of the issue than anything, and it's the lying. It's the fact that I think if he was more open about who he was and just said, yeah, this is what I do, and that's what we like about Trump, honestly, is that he just owns who he is, says, this is who I am, this is what I do, and take it or leave it. Whereas Andrew Gillum tries to play the good guy in this, perfect image when that's not who he truly is.
Yeah, by the way, a quick shout out. If you want to learn more about this story on Andrew Gillum, go to bizpackreview.com. They have their story there. Thanks to our friends at BizPack Review, again, for carrying the show today. New conservative news today as well. Again, for more information on this Andrew Gillum story, go to bizpackreview.com. All right. Well, it's been an exciting show. It's been a great show.
Yeah, I had a good time today. Again, we got to talk about Andrew Gillum. It's been a lot of fun for me this week. But other than that,
really care about this.
It's because of all of the hate that we got for like a whole year running against him. That's why I've been excited to talk about that story. But so basically, what I want to end the show on, from a final announcements, again, everything is canceled right now at Tampa Bay Young Republicans. We do technically have an event scheduled on the 30th at the Barrymore Hotel downtown Tampa. We're going to do a conservative women across generations. I don't know if that's going to happen right now. It looks like everything's getting canceled, but as of right now, we're staying strong on keeping that event. But if not, again, thanks to BizPack. Thanks to everybody else that watches. Thanks to everyone that supports the show. Tampa Young Republicans, Florida Federation of Young Republicans, and then the National Young Republicans as well.
All right, Michelle, anything on your radar?
I would just like to say thank you to BizPack again, and I hope everyone stays safe and stays healthy.
Chris VerKuilen.
All right, so we've had so many comments in the comments section, so thank you all. Our new audience is awesome. I love having you guys on board.
Yeah.
Look forward to your participation next week. We'll have the show promoted a little bit more thoroughly ahead of time. In the meantime, take up woodworking and hunting. You'll have a fridge full of meat and furniture to cut it apart on. So
woodworking and hunting.
Yeah, all great solo sports. So thank you for watching. See you next week.
All right. And again, thank you so much for watching The Yard Sign. Please follow us on all our social media platforms. Just search for The Yard Sign and be sure to subscribe to the audio version of our podcast at Google, Apple, and Spotify. You can find the audio version. And then, of course, as you're watching now, live on Facebook at facebook.com/The Yard Sign and also on YouTube as well. We appreciate you so much for watching. Please leave us comments, ratings, reviews. We hope to see you next Monday, 7 o'clock right here on all the interwebs. Now, because of our new audience and working out this new relationship, we don't have a MAGA moment tonight, but we appreciate you so much for watching. We'll see you next Monday, 7 o'clock. Thanks, everybody.